Hi everyone, welcome to Celestial, welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to talk about what it means to have Jupiter as your Darakaraka. Now Darakaraka is a planet that is furthest away from 30 degrees, so it's a planet that holds the 7th lowest degrees in your natal chart, and it's a planet that represents your spouse or your long-term partner, so your truest soulmate. And of course you always want to take a look at the chart as a whole. You want to look at the 7th house ruler, Venus, your divisional charts, especially the Navamsha or D9 chart, to get a well-rounded picture of your spouse, your long-term partner, your marriage, or your union. But let's get into what it means to have Jupiter as your Darakaraka. Now Jupiter is the planet of wisdom, expansion, dharma, which is higher purpose, spirituality, ethics, and blessings. When it becomes the Darakaraka, the energy it governs becomes central to your spouse or your long-term partner's essence and the marital experience or the union itself. This placement indicates that your spouse or your long-term partner is someone who embodies Jupiterian qualities, someone who is a guide, a teacher, mentor, protector, or spiritual companion. This relationship is likely to bring growth, purpose, and higher understanding, often in contrast to more passionate or volatile dynamics. When you have Jupiter as your Darakaraka, you're going to get a spouse or long-term partner that is likely to be wise beyond their years, even if young, someone who sees life from a higher perspective. They're going to be calm, benevolent, kind-hearted, and optimistic, possibly involved in academia, law, philosophy, spirituality, or teaching. This is going to be someone who is morally upright, or at least deeply guided by principles and values, someone who has a mentor-like quality. They may uplift or educate you, formally or informally. If you have Jupiter as your Darakaraka, your spouse or your long-term partner will not be flashy or aggressive. Instead, they will radiate quiet confidence, grounded belief, and inner nobility. They often have a commanding yet gentle presence that earns respect. Now, of course, this is subject to change depending on the sign Jupiter is sitting in, the house it's sitting in, nakshatra, lunar mansion it's sitting in, aspects it's receiving in your overall chart. But it's very likely that your spouse or long-term partner is somebody who is either seen to be very lucky or somebody who feels very lucky. With Jupiter as your Darakaraka, it indicates that your spouse or your long-term partner likely has lived a life that has involved formal education, spiritual training, or mentorship under wise figures. This is someone who has a very strong influence from teachers, gurus, or father figures in their life. A Jupiter Darakaraka will give you a spouse or long-term partner that has a relatively structured or principled upbringing, where morality and ethics were emphasized, and they tend to have a life dedicated to learning, growth, or serving a higher cause. Alternatively, if they weren't born into such circumstances, they may have yearned for wisdom and purpose, seeking out philosophy, higher education, or spiritual teachings to find their path. This is someone that's not likely to be very materialistic in essence. Even if successful, they may see wealth or achievements as tools and not goals. When Jupiter becomes the Darakaraka, your marriage or union often becomes a spiritually uplifting or morally grounding experience. It brings stability, mutual respect, and a sense of higher meaning to your life. There may be a mentor-student dynamic at times. Either you feel your spouse or long-term partner teaches you, or vice versa. You can expect your marriage or union to involve wisdom sharing, emotional and intellectual support, a strong sense of loyalty, mutual growth, and ethical grounding, a focus on long-term vision rather than short-term passion or drama. And with Jupiter as your Darakaraka, you'll get a partner who encourages your inner development and may help you refine your beliefs or worldview. So it's not necessarily the most fiery or wild relationship, but it does bring peace, purpose, and protection, often protection from the divine. So your union with this person, your marriage with this person can feel divinely protected, or after you meet this person and enter into a serious dynamic and relationship with them, you can feel more pulled towards divinity and understanding the meaning of life, or becoming more spiritual. Now, having Jupiter as your Darakaraka can also indicate that your spouse or your long-term partner is a foreigner, so somebody that comes from a different country, a different background, a different religion, or they may have different beliefs. And your union and your life and your journey together can really involve learning a lot from one another. So they can not only expand your luck, but they can also expand the way that you look at the world and the way that you look at yourself. Jupiter's Darakaraka signifies a marriage or union that becomes a source of spiritual evolution. It may feel blessed or divinely guided. Even if the relationship experiences challenges, there's a sense that it's anchored in goodwill and shared values. Emotionally, your spouse or your long-term partner would be emotionally stable, often the calm in the storm. They can avoid emotional games or manipulation. They can lean towards rational optimism or try to resolve issues peacefully. And they can also be someone that is slow to anger but firm in their beliefs. On a spiritual level, the marriage or the union will align both partners with a shared sense of dharma or higher truth. It can involve religious or philosophical discussions or even shared practices, and it can serve as a space for both partners to evolve as souls, not just live as partners. With Jupiter as your Darakaraka, your spouse or your long-term partner doesn't just love you, but they guide you as well. So they may open your mind, help you see the bigger picture, or steer you back when you drift from your purpose. Whether through gentle advice or leading by example, their presence elevates you. Your marriage or your union will bring expansion of consciousness. It will help you understand life's bigger picture, can encourage ethical decisions, emotional maturity, and clarity, and there can be a support of life abundance, not just in wealth, but in insight, morality, and legacy. Even if your spouse or long-term partner is younger or less experienced, they will likely carry a soul that feels old and wise. It may even feel like they are not of this world or of the times that we're living in. Now, when we get into shadow expressions, so when your Jupiter Darakaraka is undeveloped or afflicted, if it's receiving difficult aspects, there can be subtle shadow traits that arise, and this can be that your spouse or long-term partner may become self-righteous or preachy, insisting that their view is the only right one. There can be over-idealization of the spouse or long-term partner or marriage and union, so you may put them on a pedestal and feel disillusioned if they falter. There can be a tendency to moralize rather than empathize during disagreements. In some cases, the spouse or long-term partner may avoid practical matters, so they can be too idealistic or abstract. But generally, I have noticed that even in its lower expressions, Jupiter doesn't bring chaos. Its worst tendencies are arrogance in beliefs or detachment from worldly reality. Having Jupiter as your Darakaraka, you will find that your spouse or long-term partner has lived a life centered around learning, wisdom, and growth. So their life likely has revolved around expansion through knowledge, whether it's formal education, self-study, religious guidance, or philosophical exploration. This is someone who has consistently sought to understand the world through meaning. So your spouse or your long-term partner could have spent many years in academia or higher education. They could have been mentored by a respected teacher, spiritual guide, or father figure. This is someone that could have pursued philosophy, theology, law, or ethics as life foundations. Or in other ways, this is someone that has always been naturally curious and always striving for truth and deeper understanding. So even if your spouse or your long-term partner is not highly educated in the traditional sense, they live with a deep sense of purpose and a hunger for wisdom, so they often carry the air of someone who knows things that others don't. This is also somebody that other people will like to come to for advice or like to be around because their energy can be so peaceful and happy. Having Jupiter as your Darakaraka indicates that your spouse or long-term partner may have been seen early on as a wise old soul or someone others turn to for advice. So their life may have shaped them to be a mediator, a counselor, teacher, or advisor to friends, families, or peers. You can find that this is somebody that is often put into morally complex situations and forced to choose integrity over comfort. Your spouse or long-term partner will be someone who is a quiet observer, who internalizes life's lessons and emerges with compassion. Even in their youth, they might have felt an inner responsibility to be fair, to help others, or to act according to conscience rather than impulse. And all of this comes from your spouse or long-term partner often being the mature one in a chaotic or unstructured family, having a spiritually inclined or ethically strict upbringing, or being the child who asked deep questions such as why are we here, what's right and wrong, and so on. Now Jupiter rules the guru, teacher, and father archetypes, so the spouse or long-term partner may have lived a life heavily influenced by a wise mentor who helped them through a major turning point, a strict or deeply philosophical father who shaped their worldview, positively or negatively, and spiritual communities, religious institutions, or intellectual environments. Even if their early life was difficult, they likely found a mentor or guiding philosophy that helped them anchor and heal. You'll notice that all of this has given this person a mature and centered aura, as if they've already seen the highs and lows of life and come out wiser. Jupiter Darakaraka spouses or long-term partners often lead a life that prioritizes doing the right thing, even when it's difficult, so they may be respected in their community for integrity or leadership, or attracted to roles that involve justice, fairness, or guidance. It's likely that your spouse or long-term partner is seen as an ethical anchor in their social or professional circles. Their path may include making hard moral choices early on, standing up for others, or taking the high road even at a cost, or choosing meaning over materialism even if they're successful. So this is not someone that chases success recklessly. They align with it by following what feels right. Having Jupiter as your Darakaraka often indicates that you get a spouse or long-term partner who has a spiritual blueprint in their life. So that doesn't always mean religious. It could be that they have a love for deep thought, meditation, or sacred texts. They could have a natural belief in karma, higher order, or cosmic justice. They could have a life of soul searching, possibly through travel, study, or solitude. And they can have a very strong relationship with nature, prayer, or universal compassion. It's likely that your spouse or long-term partner went through a phase of introspection or spiritual awakening, especially if they faced loss or disappointment early in life. Now, though Jupiter is benefic, this doesn't mean that the spouse or long-term partner has had a perfect life. In fact, their wisdom is often hard-earned, so they may have faced betrayals or disillusionment, especially when others fail to live up to their moral standards. Your spouse or long-term partner could have experienced moral dilemmas, being forced to walk away from people or situations that violated their values. This could be somebody that has been misunderstood as too idealistic, too forgiving, or too preachy. And it's also likely that they have gone through periods of isolation where they have had to grow internally. Still, they will rise from it with grace, often becoming someone who teaches others through lived experience rather than theory. Having Jupiter as your Darakaraka indicates that your spouse or long-term partner is wise, moral, calm, and expansive in thought. The marriage or union is based on growth, ethics, higher learning, and long-term vision. This relationship will uplift you and align with you in your purpose or spiritual truth. And your spouse or long-term partner will act as a teacher, guide, or source of emotional and philosophical strength for you. Often having Jupiter as your Darakaraka does indicate that this relationship has mutual respect, depth, and a shared path of evolution. It's likely that after you enter into this union with them, that you also attract a lot of luck or abundance in some way. This can be somebody that you really enjoy being around, spending time with, or even listening to. They can have a very generous nature, and if there's affliction or if there's a lack of certain elements in the chart or in synastry, it can indicate that somebody does not know when to stop giving, so there can be difficulty with boundaries. Having Jupiter as your Darakaraka indicates that your spouse or your long-term partner carries spiritual karmas related to teaching, guidance, or spiritual leadership. So it's likely that they have been a teacher, priest, philosopher, advisor in a past life, or they've lived lifetimes where they have guided others but didn't always find personal fulfillment themselves. It's also likely that they've come into this life with a strong inner compass, even if externally they seem humble or unassuming. Your spouse or your long-term partner will be someone who naturally radiates peace and gravitas, not because they have studied it, but because they've lived it across many lifetimes. Jupiter is not just about love, it's about growth. So when it becomes the Darakaraka, your spouse or long-term partner's soul is meant to stretch yours. So this might show up in ways such as challenging your limiting beliefs, even gently, or encouraging you to dream bigger or think more universally. It could be through expanding your sense of what's possible spiritually, emotionally, intellectually, and helping you connect to your dharma or soul purpose. It's likely that you will feel that this person has opened up your world, not through drama or chaos, but by gently raising your baseline of inner truth. With Jupiter as your Darakaraka, you can find that your spouse or long-term partner has a perhaps dual relationship with authority. So, though often they may respect authority, they can also question or challenge traditional authority, not out of rebellion, but from higher discernment. This could be somebody that has experienced disillusionment with religious institutions, teachers, or father figures, or they move between being guided and becoming the guide themselves. It's likely that their life has included transformations in how they view truth, hierarchy, and faith. They might have once idolized a figure or philosophy only to outgrow it and discover their own truth. Now, Jupiter also governs and represents children and legacy. So your spouse or your long-term partner will be someone that is deeply nurturing or protective of children, even if they don't have children or even if they don't want their own. They may feel called to mentor younger people, formally or informally, and they can live a life where they leave behind some form of teaching, wisdom, or positive impact for the future generations. You'll find that they can carry an unconscious desire to leave things better than they found them, and marriage and union with them may feel like you're building not just a life, but a legacy. Your marriage or union with them can feel like you're entering a phase or dynamic that is bigger than you or greater than you somehow, or that there's a bigger or greater purpose for both of you coming together. Having Jupiter as your Darakaraka can indicate that you get a spouse or long-term partner who brings good fortune, but not always immediately. So Jupiter Darakaraka often means that the spouse or long-term partner becomes a source of prosperity, wisdom, and good fortune, but only after the relationship matures. Early on, they may seem overly idealistic or too calm, almost even frustratingly unbothered. They can appear to lack the intensity or urgency other relationships bring, or they can not feel like a soulmate right away, but they can become irreplaceable over time. Now, when you enter into a deeper and serious union with them, such as marriage, you can see that they stabilize your emotional world and even protect your karma, often acting as a kind of spiritual shield for you. It may feel like your life starts expanding emotionally, intellectually, or materially after they arrive into your life, and even more so when you enter into a serious union with them. Even though they may seem serene, wise, and composed, they often carry quiet struggles such as imposter syndrome. They can feel like they must know everything or live up to a role. They can have guilt or regret over past decisions that clashed with their values, a tendency to absorb others' burdens, becoming everyone's counselor while bottling their own needs, or they can feel isolated because few people truly understand their depth. Now, the marriage or union with themselves itself has a karmic blessing, otherwise known as punya karma. With Jupiter as your Darakaraka, your marriage or union may carry a blessing from past life merit. So this could manifest as unexpected protection during hard times, meeting your spouse or long-term partner under auspicious circumstances, a sense that this was meant to happen even if life brings challenges. This relationship often has a spiritual undercurrent, so you may pray together, grow spiritually together, even find that your values align in deeply uncanny ways. With Jupiter as your Darakaraka, you'll find that your spouse or long-term partner is wise, calm, ethical, nurturing, and spiritually or philosophically inclined. They radiate maturity and quiet strength. Their life has likely been shaped by education, spiritual values, or mentors. They may have been the old soul growing up, or someone others turn to for advice, and they often live a life of purpose, principle, and growth. With Jupiter as your Darakaraka, your spouse or your long-term partner is a soul guide. They elevate you, help you align with your dharma, and bring long-term blessings into your life. The marriage or union itself likely carries punya karma, so past life merit, and it can be a relationship that's built on wisdom, trust, ethics, and soul evolution, where love grows through mutual respect, shared values, and inner peace. With that being said, I'm going to wrap. Thank you so much for your kindness and your support as always. If nothing else, I hope this video offered you a different perspective. I hope you're keeping well, I hope you're keeping safe, and until next time.